This is the next stage of the CB750 restoration videos. I've got some pictures, photographs here to show you the work that I've been doing on the front wheel. I tried my best to see if I could recover this wheel, but ultimately the rim is too badly pitted and the spokes are pretty rusty. I tried to take some photographs to show how bad the rim was, but it didn't come out that well. But there's no way I could reuse the rim for this particular project. So what I want to do is to relace it with new spokes and a new rim. I've never done this before, so this is a bit of a learning curve for me. So we started off with a photograph of the wheel as it is at the moment. I laid it on the bench, and you can see here on the right hand side I've got a spacer underneath it, which is a piece of wood that shows the offset. And there's a better photograph to show how I've done that. So the bench is perfectly flat, and I know how much the rim needs to sit off the other side of the hub by using that wooden spacer. So coming back to this photograph here, you can see how the spokes are all laced from the center hub outwards. And what I did was I then took this photograph and then I marked on the hub, or on a diagram of the center hub, the holes and the holes on the rim, and then I made a table up to show which spoke went to which point on the rim. And so I was marking these up, so if I used this one here, I would then count how many it went round before I got the next one. So if I take this one, I then have to go around 10 spokes, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10, before I go back one. So if I go back one, I have to go forward 10, and that's how I knew the spoke spacing. I'll attach a copy of the table that I used, but I'll show you actually how I went about gathering this information to start off with. So you can see here that the hub has got holes drilled in it, and on the other side the holes are slightly offset. So the holes aren't lined up from one side of the hub to the other. So I've marked them off on one side as going 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 blah blah blah, and then on the other side I've gone 1.5, 2.5, 3.5 to show whereabouts the hole lines up compared to the holes on the top here. And again, you can see here that the rim has got spokes that are on one side, and it's also got spoke holes on the other side, and so they match up with the corresponding sides of this hub. So this hub here, obviously any spokes that come out of here, whether it's from the top or from the bottom, will end up on the holes on this side of the rim. So I used an angle grinder to cut through all the spokes, pulled all the spokes off, threw the rim away, threw the spokes away, and ended up with this hub. And it was pretty grotty, but it was in reasonable condition. So I left the original bearings in because I wanted to use the bearings to protect the seal surfaces. And I just wanted to make sure the hub itself was going to be protected while I did all the cleaning. As you can see here, it was pretty grotty when it came off, but it actually polished up quite nicely when you spent about an hour on using different types of wet and dry sandpaper and a couple of wire brushes, just kept it nice and clean. Here's it's shown with the new rim and the spoke pack that I bought from David Silver Spares, and I just wanted to show you now how I went about to going and getting the hub relaced. So the spokes themselves come in two different types. There's what I call the short side and the long side, and these are because the hub itself is beveled slightly, and so you need a different angle of spoke depending on whether you're lacing it from the inside or the outside of the hub. If you're lacing it from the outside of the hub, you need this one here, and if you're lacing it from the inside of the hub, you use this one here, which has got a larger angle. So you need to split the spokes out, because when you are using them, you obviously need to make sure that this lot here are being fed up from have the buttons on the top, and you need to make sure these ones here have got these ones here, and this side here I've got the buttons on the bottom. What I did then is I laced up the spokes on one side of the hub, then I turned it over, and then I looked at my photographs and I looked at my chart again, and I made sure that the layouts were the same, so that I wanted to make sure that I've got the crosses here in the right place compared to these crosses. So I wanted to make sure they weren't one shuffled over. So I drew on there to show the line where I want the spoke to come over the top, and a dotted line to show the spoke coming on the inside of the hub. And you can see there that how the spokes are, the spoke holes on this hub are offset, and how I wanted the spokes to line up with the ones in relation to the ones underneath it. So that was it all lined up. You can see on the outside of the rim I've got the numbers from, you know, start off 1, 2, 3, 4 all the way around to 40, and likewise here I got 1, 2, 3, 4 all the way around to 20. Obviously there are 20 spokes on one side and 20 spokes on the other, but there's obviously 40 on the rim itself. And I've got a table that says, you know, that from number 1 I expected that to go to number 4, and number 2 I expected that to go to number 20, whatever it was, and it showed me which orientation it needed to go. So that's number 3 and that's number 4. So that would be number 3.5, 3.5 on the table. And I know that that needs to go to number 29. Sorry, no, to what's that? 40, 39, 38, 37. So that I knew where it needed to go to make sure that I got them all lined up correctly. So I got the numbers on the outside, the numbers here, and I'd also got the numbers plus a half on the other hub. I then compared that photograph to the photograph that I took earlier of the rusty one to make sure it was all lined up and it was all in place. I've also got the sticks on here. Well, now you can't actually see it on the other side of this photograph, but I've got those lined up, so therefore I know that the hub spacing compared to the rim is as it used to be. And then I went around and tightened the spokes up gradually to make sure they were all in place. And eventually we ended up with a hub that was aligned. It was true to the rim. It was central, and what I did then was I put in the axle, and this is why I kept the bearings in as well. As what I wanted to do is, before I took it off the bench and put it on the bike, I wanted to make sure it was reasonably accurate, and especially regarding the spacing between the hub and the rim, to make sure that was correct. And then what I'll do then is I will get hold of the forks, and when I put the wheel on the bike, that is when I will do the final truing. But I can tell you that doing it this way, you actually get a very, very close fit with the rim and the hub lined up the way that it is. So that was my first attempt at lacing a wire wheel. It seems to have gone reasonably successfully. It's spun up quite true. I do have a little bit of small adjustments to make, but I'll do that on the bike, and I'll show you how to do that when I get to that stage.